Hello YouTube. So, having some cold start issues on the 5.3. You try to start it, it tries to start and then it dies. It'll do like that 2 or 3 times, then it'll finally start and stay running. But usually when you first start it up, the fueling, it hits different cells in the fueling cells. Then when it's warmed up, hopefully that's just it. Christopher was laughing at me. He's like, your car's fuel injected and it's harder to start. And it is. His car, back there, it starts right up. It don't care. It'll be 30 degrees outside, E85, carburetor, blow through. Wow, starts right up. If it's really cold though, you do have to idle it up a little bit with just the throttle pedal until it warms up just a little, and it'll idle by itself. This one, once it gets started, it'll stay running. But I'm gonna log this and see what cells it's hitting, and maybe add some gas in those cells and see what it'll do. We'll go ahead and turn the key on, let the fuel cycle a little, and I don't know why that does that. It's annoying. It'll blind you. Usually don't do it that much. I don't know what's going on. But I let the O2s get heated up also. And go ahead and connect to the scanner. I guess we can turn the light out and get a little glare there. And then see what cells it's hitting over here. Over yonder. See if we can just, and I'll show you what it does when you try to start it. Let's start scanning. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Now you'll see. Usually does that 2 or 3 times for it to actually start up. Let's go ahead and stop the scanner and see what it looks like. See if I can do this. So when it first starts, there's a wideband reading. There's the RPM and stuff. We'll back out of a little bit. When it first tries to start, that's cranking. And then there it starts. It idles good. And those cells where it usually idles at, 14, blah, blah, blah. But then you'll notice it goes up to these cells. And look how lean it is. We don't have enough fuel in those cells. See? And that's where it tries to die right there. See, that's 1,000 RPM, then it comes down. It starts to lean out, 800 RPM, 770 RPM, and then it just starts leaning out more and more. And it quits right there. So let's add some fuel in these cells. See what that does. That's the only time you ever hit those cells on something like that. But yeah, we'll just do these. We'll just raise those up a little bit and see if that helps. Now, if you guys ever go in here and try to write a tune that says will not connect, a lot of people freak out and they, oh, it won't connect, what's going on? Well, make sure you disconnect from the scanner first, which I've already done. Make sure you hit that disconnect from vehicle, because if the scanner's connected, it will not let you load a tune. All right, I've highlighted those cells and I'm just going to go 20%. If you go 1.2 and hit the multiply button, it'll increase it 20%, because anything times 1 is itself. And if you wanted to lower it, you could do 0.8 and hit the multiply button, and it'll drop it 20%. But we're going to go up 20%. That might be a little drastic. But we'll see what it does. I'm gonna find some numbers out here that are higher. Well, I was gonna blend it in. I'm not gonna blend it in yet. Let's load this up and see what it does. Oh. Alright, let's see what that does. Tune's loaded up. Oh, wait, let's start the scanner. Oh, hell. Get the scanner going. Connect to vehicle, red button. Start scanning. There we go. Way better. That's way better. Ain't that something? Boy, it revs good now too. I like it. Alright, so now I'm just gonna, this is when you first rev it, if you're under load it goes this way, but if you're not under load it goes this way. That's why we had to add fuel to those cells. And it revs pretty good, but it was shooting a little smoke out, so I'm just gonna lower these just about 5%, and then I'm gonna blend everything back in a little bit. Load that up and call it good. And this car is tuned for VE, so that's the table I use. If you're tuned for math, then it's a different table. Like, take a look here. So it's actually under engine, airflow, and if you're not using the math, you use this main VE table. But if you're using the math airflow, it's this one. It just reads in frequency, whereas this one reads off of RPM and the throttle position, or the manifold absolute pressure, the MAP sensor. So there's many cells, whereas the MAF, it's just straight across. But it's the same principle on either one. If you're idling at 3.500, you would increase that cell to add fuel at idle, etc. Same thing. Oh yeah, looking good. It revs better now too in park neutral. Before, on initial startup, and you tried to rev it, it wasn't having it. Now it's almost like a carbureted car. Very responsive. Alright guys, it's another day, and I just wanted to make absolutely sure the car was completely cooled down and try to start it again just to make sure that issue was gone. I believe it is, but let's see what we got. Let's let that pump run for a minute. Much better. Yep, that'll work for me. Alright, and you can see I did have to go down as far as 70 and across. And then I just blended all this in. You know, you just highlight the cells you want and you hit this button. That'll do vertical. Like if you highlight these tables, it'll blend it in from up and down. This will do horizontal. If you highlight these tables, it'll blend it in from left to right. But yeah, I just blended it in, and that's what it looks like now. It looks all good. The car does run a little fat at cruise and idle and stuff like that, but if you try to lean it out anymore, it don't act right. You have to give it what it wants, and from my experience, the turbo cars, they like to run a little fatter. From like mine and Austin's, they both like to run a little fat according to the 04 or the 0441 wideband or whatever those are called. But yeah, that's going to do it. Now, if that don't get you where it's supposed to be, there are some other cells that you can try to work with. But another thing I wanted to show y'all, when I was revving it earlier, it would try to quit, and I did fix that. And the way I did that was, if you're ever having like hanging idle, this took me forever to figure out, and I asked a million people, and nobody could give me a good answer. But right there, that throttle follower, if you raise these numbers, it'll get rid of it some. But this right here is the delay in gear and park neutral. This is where you'll see it at. Chris's car was doing it really bad, but his was set up to like 3 seconds out here. And when he tried to come to a stop for 3 seconds, the car would whoa to about 1500 RPM before it settled back down. We just zeroed his table out, but I noticed when I zeroed mine out on park and neutral, when you revved it up and it come back down, it would try to quit a little, so I just put 0.2 seconds in there. So at 0, park neutral, revving it would come back down, it'd drop to like 500 RPM, then catch itself and come back up. But on Christopher's car, it was hanging idle really bad, so we just zeroed. His only uses the in gear table because it's a stick shift car. So we went in here and we completely zeroed that table out. Boom, no more hanging throttle. Now sometimes on his, it does, his does the drop idle too sometimes after a rev, but his wasn't near as bad as mine was. But if he don't like it doing that, his only does it once in a blue moon. But if it gets to where it's an issue, we'll just come in here and do the same thing. His was like 3 seconds here and then 2.7 seconds out here and was kind of blended in, but that was way too much. We'd come to a stop and it would just whoa for a good 3 seconds. Whoa, and then whoa. He didn't like that. So we just zeroed this table completely out, and as soon as you let off the gas now, so yeah. So if y'all are ever wondering how to get rid of hanging idle, that's where you get rid of it at. You can either raise these numbers and try to make it better, or lower these numbers. This is for when you're in park and neutral, and this is for when you're in gear. If it's a stick car, it always uses the in gear table.
Just to go over a few more things here with the idle. Like on mine, it seemed to help. This is the coolant temp sensor. This is in gear, in park, etc. Like I said, a stick shift car only uses the in gear table. Automatic car and park and neutral, it uses this part, and then in gear automatic uses the top part. But anyway, this is the coolant temp sensor. So if you raise these, it seems to help, which I did raise mine in that tune. It did seem to help. Also, something else that'll help is your base running airflow. Now there's a thing in here, that a graphs layout that I had made was idle desired airflow. So you pick your idle desired airflow from here. Idle desired airflow. And then, you pick your engine coolant temp, because it goes off engine coolant temp at the top. That's really all it goes off of. So, because when you start to give it gas, you come out of the idle. So what you do is you start your vehicle, and then what it commands or what it's wanting is what you plug into this table. And, you know, you start it from a cold start, let it run, it'll populate, and then just move those over to this table. And that'll help with that. And I need to do that on mine, but it's starting and idling good now, so I don't really got to worry about it. Now, if it doesn't want to start, like you're just cranking and cranking and cranking, you can come in here and do your cranking VE table, which is pretty much what it gives it fuel when you're cranking, and you can try that. Now, if your idle is jumping all over the place, you can come in here and mess with these idle spark tables, which this is the way I've got mine set up. And then you got the overspeed and the underspeed. What these do is they change the timing if it idles too high, or they change the timing if it idles too low. And this is the way I've got this set up. So if you don't got these set just right, it could bounce all over the place, and just be like, oh, and you can adjust these. But that's some other things that could help also.
Yeah, that's gonna do it for that. Y'all have a good day. It was a nice day out today. I should have finished taking that rear end out today, but I drove all last weekend, drove all weekend before that. This Saturday I just wanted to lay around and be lazy. I like to have a lazy day every now and then. Y'all have a good one.